You're listening to Winnipeg's Classic 107. My name is Simon Rusnak. Liubov, an afternoon of Ukrainian art songs of the heart and soul, takes place this weekend. Soprano Katherine Mayba has joined me in studio to tell us a little bit more. Welcome back to Classic 107.
Well, thank you for having me again.
So to remind listeners, you're a Rose Bowl winner who has performed as a soloist with the WSO, been in productions with Manitoba Opera, Flipside, Manitoba Underground Opera, and holder of the ever-impressive 3 ARCT performance diplomas in voice, piano, and violin. We last had you in studio as a virtuosi young artist. Katherine, can you catch us up a little bit in the years since you've graduated, right? Not from music, but a different faculty?
That's true, yeah. So, yeah, it seems like a kind of a dark black hole a little bit, but when I last was here, and I remember because it was the weekend before I did the Mets, I went to Minneapolis to do the Mets competition, and it was kind of the same week that I did the Virtuosi Young Artist.
And this was early 2020.
That was early 2020.
We had no idea what was coming.
No, we had no idea what ride we were in for. So so I was here, and since then, in March of that year, I kind of finished school. I had some auditions at that time. I was almost, ready to switch gears completely and start some programs, but everything kind of shut down, I'm sure, as everyone remembers. And so I started working. I started working at the hospital, and that's where I've been since. I've been working as a pharmacist at the time it still is, it's the ICU, so it's adult critical care. And so that was the department I started in and that I've kind of continued on in. And it's a very interesting, I feel it's almost related to music in a way, because it's very much, you have to think on your feet.
Right.
And it's, kind of more of an urgent environment. So it's like a lot of it, I feel like when you're kind of a performer and you are used to having to really, be quick and problem solve. And so, yeah, it was kind of an interesting way that it all kind of took form. And then this past year, I actually went back to the U of M, and so to get my master's, and so I'm doing that, and then working part-time and performing. So
things are a little busy.
So it's
a few
good,
irons
though.
in the fire. Yeah, it's good though. You're studying with Tracy Dahl, right?
Yes, yeah.
Just so wonderful. I'm curious. You mentioned kind of going to work, working at the hospital, and can only imagine the demands of that profession. But has music provided a sort of comfort or an outlet for you in the midst of this demanding job?
I would say probably now more so. I think at the beginning it was too close that I don't think I listened to classical music for a year and a half. Yeah. I got really into Cat Stevens and Simon & Garfunkel.
Yeah, as one does. Yeah.
So there was a bit of that, that came into focus. It was a way to kind of mellow out all the craziness that was happening. And, but I would say, when I got hired, I didn't really know any different. Mm-hmm. So I just kind of just go with the flow. Yeah. And I think that was probably the silver lining, is I didn't know anything. And with music, you couldn't really do much other than certain projects. Like I did a couple of video projects, or underground opera. I did, they actually did Svadba, the Anna Sokolovich opera. And so that
Bluebeard's Castle, something like that. Yeah, it was really great.
That was really interesting to learn how to do, just how to be your own videographer and audio. Those are skills that I hopefully am better at now, but I never really would have probably forced myself to get better at.
So thankfully you're back with live performances coming up this weekend. And I was thinking back to that conversation we had in early 2020, and you were performing, if I remember correctly, selections from the Schumann Liederkreis, the song cycle. Mm-hmm. And many of us know about this wonderful German lieder tradition. Of course, there's Liederkreis, and then other Schumann song cycles, and Schubert and Mahler, and the list goes on and on and on. But this concert features Ukrainian art songs, those that have been, I guess, resurrected, if I can use that word, by the bass baritone Pavlo Hunka through the Ukrainian Art Song Project. Can you tell us more about this?
Yes, absolutely. So I first joined the Ukrainian Art Song Project Summer Institute in 2019, and I had the chance to work. It was a week-long summer intensive institute with other emerging artists, and you had the opportunity to work with Pavlo Hunka, who is behind this whole project, really. Started in 2004, and with, acclaimed Canadian and, I think artists from all over as well, that they've done a number of recordings. And I think they've done, I don't know, a couple hundred. And at this point, they're putting together like an anthology. And so, meeting him, like, he's this renowned opera singer, kind of larger than life. He's incredibly, he's got this wonderful vision. He's very passionate and dedicated, and he's just a very captivating person and performer. So that was just, it was so fortunate and such a privilege to have that opportunity. And so we spent that week, we were each given a couple art songs and a couple duets. And so through that, you learned about, new composers and the poetry and ensemble work. And then I came back last summer again to do the Summer Institute. And for me, it's my background is Ukrainian, and so it's it's personal, but also I feel like this music it's so underrepresented, and I think there might be this notion that Ukrainian music is kind of this folk-like, with like dances that's part of it, but there's such a rich history too of classical music, especially when you think of when I think back to 1876, there was that Ems Ukaz, which kind of prohibited Ukrainian language from being put on the stage and from being published in books. And so that's kind of this emergence of there's a lot of prolific writing that happened at that time, and so the people that were composing, they went to all these European institutes, and then they found their own voice. And so it's very sophisticated writing, and it's very complicated writing. And so it's not, I think sometimes it's almost diminished that it's this kind of simplistic form. And I think that that's not true, because it's just there's so many, it's infused with such incredible counterpoint and lyricism. And so I'm very, as you can tell, it's it's something really important to me.
Yeah, and as it should be. Like you say, we know of each other through the Ukrainian community. We know what the community is like. We know how vibrant it is. But so often, this is music that you wouldn't hear at some sort of community concert. It's very different. And we, thankfully, thanks to Pavlo Hunka and all the other wonderful singers, have been sharing these discs on Classic 107. And there's been this sort of renaissance of Ukrainian composers, especially in light of what's been going on for the last year and a half now. Can you talk about the importance of sharing these works with the Ukrainian diaspora and bringing those works? And I know you've performed them in Toronto. That's where the Summer Art Institute takes place. But the importance of bringing them here and sharing them with the Winnipeg audience.
Oh, absolutely. That's huge. I think, it's evident now more than ever the importance that Ukrainian music, culture, language it's not a race, that it's promoted, and that it's unique and independent. And I think as an artist, it's definitely a goal of mine to integrate this music into recitals and concerts, and so that it's accessible. It's accessible to, especially non-Ukrainians, for them to also perform, and to as a musician, I've been, I feel like by going to these institutes, I've kind of gained some tools and how to teach others about the language. And because I think that this music should be part of standard repertoire. You have your traditional canon of German lieder, French melody, chanson, and then English ballads or whatever. And Ukrainian music, it deserves to be there, to be celebrated and championed on the world stage. So and I think in definitely with the war, and it's so important to uncover these lost works and promote these underrepresented composers and language. And for me, it's really an aim by doing these concerts and recordings and touring that, you demonstrate that Ukrainian culture is, rich, distinctive, and resilient. And it's really it's inherent in what you hear and what you read.
Music can really nourish the soul, but at the same time, it sort of stands in defiance, right? Upholding that Ukrainian identity and culture. These composers go back into the high romantic era, composers like Kirill Tsitsenko and Mykola Lysenko, and the list goes on. But also contemporary composers are represented in the Ukrainian Art Song Project as well, right?
Absolutely. And our program features, we have some of the late romantic like the father of Ukrainian art songs, Lysenko, and then we have some post-romantic, we have some modern, and even like Stefania Turkevich. You know, she studied with Schoenberg, and you can hear like that 12-tone influence in music, and that, you know, the second Viennese school. It's remarkable, and so we have a lot of. She's features quite a bit on our program, and then I'm doing some sets by Miroslav Volinsky, who is a contemporary composer. He's from Liubov, studied composition there, was part of the faculty at the university there, and I was particularly drawn to his pieces, mainly because like the first time I went to the Institute, that's all we did. And Pavlo Hunka had this concert in this program it was all the pieces by Volinsky, and his writing is just incredible. Like it's so, like, I think what draws me to it is the complexity. Like it's so rewarding to like deconstruct while you're learning and performing it, and it's just such lush, like the harmonic language is really lush. And there's also this sense of drama. So it's also very, you know, orchestral and very operatic.
Yeah.
So that is incredibly cool. And his use of text is like, you know, he pays such close attention to poetry, and it's the intricacies he has with word painting. It's just exquisite. So
I mean, you can feel your passion in how you talk about this stuff. The concert coming up on Saturday, May 13th, 2 p.m. And it isn't just going to be you. There is going to be, of course, solo art song, also some duets. Who's going to be joining you in Liubov?
Yes. So Kasia Swintak, we met this past summer. She's also from Winnipeg. She is a recent graduate from the Digital Faculty of Music. We had never met each other before, and so when we were in Toronto and we were just making conversation, we both discovered that we like run in the same circles. We like know the same people, and we just had never met. So that was pretty serendipitous. And so we were discussing, like, you know, we should do something. We both live in the same city. Like, we should for sure like find a way to do a concert together. And there's a lot of incredible duets. We have a number by Lysenko. We have some by Barvinsky, who, if you ever like have a chance to read about his history, it's wild. Like the music that we're doing, like his music was publicly burned, and so he wrote what I'm assuming is the music we're doing now. This was all after, like, by memory. So it's particularly poignant when you're doing that, when you're like, that's just like beyond comprehension. So so there's a number of duets we're doing, and we have Megan DeFrat joining us, incredible collaborative pianist, and Hector Pinzon, and he's also just wonderful. And it was interesting for him because he's not Ukrainian, he's Colombian, and he was, you know, talking to me about it, and he said, you know, like, this music really resonates with me, and we're kind of discussing, like, what is that? And I think that there's just this inherent sense of depth and like this richness and passion and fire, and you can kind of just feel it in your blood. Yeah. And I guess in your heart and soul as well. Ha ha ha. Back to the title.
Back to the title. Way to bring it full circle. Way to bring it full circle.
So it's really wonderful.
It really is. And I think that what's going to be so striking here is that this accessibility. I mean, you don't have to be Ukrainian to enjoy this music. It is just a rich art song tradition that is only starting to take the stage. And may you share more of it as you continue to perform. Again, concert is this coming Saturday, 2 p.m. at St. Andrew's United Church. And free admission, though a donation to the Ukrainian Humanitarian Appeal is encouraged, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. We've got all the details up at classic107.com. Katherine, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me.